Good afternoon, and welcome to this edition of the People Progressing podcast with Rachael Weaver. I'm really excited to have Rachael on our show, and I'm just going to have her introduce herself to you, and we'll kind of go from there. But it's very, very interesting in what she's doing now to help people is really cool. So, Rachael, thanks for coming on. And why don't you just tell us like where you grew up, things you like to do as a kid, people that influenced you, and kind of we'll go from there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Joe. I'm glad to be here. I grew up actually on a farm in southern Minnesota, and it wasn't a working farm. It was a hobby farm. So my parents gave up the farming part of it just before I was born. So it was more, we had cows, we had chickens, we had dogs and cats, and like animals always around. And all out in the country. But the thing I think I remember most about growing up was always being outside. And even in Minnesota, like you're outside in the wintertime, you just get used to the cold in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I loved it as a kid. I kind of resented it as a teen, probably as most teens do. Like you don't have the freedom that you want and things like that. But now as an adult and raising my own kids, like it really was a magical way to grow up, to be on a farm and just kind of free to roam and do what we wanted.
That would be a good way to grow up. I mean, to have that freedom as a kid, how did that translate more into what you do? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Let me start with this. You went to North Dakota for college. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What was that like? Was that colder than Minnesota or about the same?
It's awful.
You didn't do yourself any favors there, did you?
You're not missing anything by never going to Fargo, North Dakota. I'm sorry, Fargo, but you're not missing anything. It is cold. Oh my gosh, so cold. Like I live in the mountains now and it's cold, but nothing like Fargo. Fargo is no words. Like your eyelids stick shut. You can't breathe because it's so cold, and you wear like parkas from like head to toe. I was not sad to leave Fargo after 5 years.
And what was your major? What did you major in there?
Architecture, actually. I grew up. So I had two passions as a kid. I loved photography. And my dad taught me how to photograph using an old film camera. I guess it wasn't old at the time, but it was film.
Yeah.
And I also loved architecture and drawing houses and just anything that really dove into like space and how spaces interacted with people. So I went to school for architecture and actually took a lot of darkroom classes at the same time, and like kind of balanced the two loves. But I probably knew third or fourth year into architecture school that I didn't actually want to be an architect.
Yeah, that happens to a lot of people.
But also, but also didn't know what else I wanted to do. And so I continued on and finished and got the degree just because I didn't know what else to do. So I was like, all right, I'll finish. And then we moved, he was my fiance at the time, but we moved after graduation to Denver. And I started working in architecture because again, I didn't know what else to do. I was like, well, I guess I'll get a job now. Of like, think this is what you're supposed to, like, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. I guess this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people get in that same situation. And this is where I think your story gets really interesting to people out there, because there's a lot of people out there who are probably in the same situation that you were, where they were working in something that really wasn't their true passion or their true purpose. And you were in that situation. How did you deal with that on a daily basis? Like getting up and going to work and stuff. How hard was that?
I hated it. I did not like the firm that I worked for. I was pretty miserable. I didn't love it. Yeah. It felt like a waste of time. The way I work is in bursts, and it felt archaic to me to have to sit at a desk from 9 to 5.
Mhm.
And even if I had work or not, I had a really hard time focusing for that long of amount of time, even taking a lunch break. Like I just struggled to focus and didn't really love the projects that I was on. Like none of it really lit me up. And so I knew that there was something coming. I knew that there was a change coming. I knew that I was going to leave architecture, but I didn't really know how or when. And in 2009, I was laid off, which was about 3.5 years after I started. And was immediately really mad, like just livid and hurt and just broken, feeling like, what did I do wrong? Even though I kind of knew, I was like, no, I didn't love this job. Like, that's why they let you go.
Yeah.
You weren't exactly an asset, Rachel.
Yeah. But you probably were, but you just didn't think you were because you didn't have a passion to go there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right.
So, and at the time, like in 2009, when everything was crashing, like to even if I wanted another architecture job, I couldn't have gotten one. So I then pivoted into photography, and I was doing some photography prior to being let go. I was shooting weddings. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll do this. I'm going to turn this into a business, and I'm going to photograph weddings. And, that went all right. I would say it went okay. My daughter was born in, let's see, that was 2009. She was born in 2013. And I knew that, again, it wasn't like something was not quite right with photography. And I was trying to figure out, I wanted more meaning and purpose within the photography. Yes, taking pictures is meaningful. Yes, capturing those moments at a wedding or a family or a newborn, like we need people to do that, but there was still something missing for me. It wasn't clicking for me. So I continued trying to figure things out. I jumped into the online space and like affiliate marketing and Facebook ads and like all these different things to try and find something that would click. And I finally discovered it in copywriting, as well as like just understanding who I am and how that translates to your brand voice and how you communicate and all of those facets.
That's really interesting. So I want to go back a little bit. The first, I'm going to ask you this. Did you play any sports growing up?
I played basketball.
Yeah. And the reason I asked that is because when you talked about getting laid off in 2009, you got this really competitive look on your face. Like, how can someone do that to me? And I could tell, right. I as a coach, I can tell athletes because they're very competitive people. And your competitive spirit really showed when you said that. And I get it.
Yeah.
But you used that negative, what you thought was a negative, to then transfer into something that was a positive for you. So you went from a job that I didn't like to go to. I didn't want to be there. I probably had Sunday night blues, driving to work, angry and frustrated, to something that was more of, when I asked you growing up, you said your two passions were architecture and photography. And you figured out that architecture wasn't, but photography still was. Long-winded question. What made you go into and take that dive into your passion of photography? Because you could have, you said you had a hard time finding a job in architecture and blah, 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 but you still made that leap into your passion. Most people are afraid to still do that leap. What was it in you that made you take that leap?
I wasn't happy. And I'm always asking questions. I'm always going, well, why is it this way? Why do we have to be like this or do this? Or why does it have to be structured this way? Like I don't take anything at face value. I want to know the deeper meaning behind things.
Yeah.
And for me, I couldn't go back to architecture. Like I didn't even look for a job. It wasn't an option in my mind. I was like, I wasn't happy. I knew that wasn't the route. And I grew up with the understanding that if you follow your passion, then everything else like happens, right?
Falls
like
in
that's
place.
how the money comes and like, yeah, success and like all the things. Right. So I'm like, well, okay, if one passion wasn't it, we'll follow the other passion. And I don't think that, I'm not even sure that statement is all that true either. I think it can be, but I think it can also get misconstrued and, lead you down a path where you think that it's going to lead you to what you want when it actually ends up leading you someplace else.
But it's,
yeah, I mean, it's always been I have to keep picking myself up. I've tried and failed so many times. Like, there is no other option than to keep going. Just no other option.
How awesome is that right there for people to hear, right? Because we all fail. We all have fears. That's just a natural thing of life. We're going to, I mean, if I could tell somebody you're never going to fail, everything's going to be perfect in your life, I would never do that to anybody. I would never give them that because it's not a gift. And what you're telling people is it's okay to fail. It's okay to pick yourself back up and keep going. And it's okay to go after things that you love to do. And that's kind of gets me to the next point is I read this on your thing, on your website, and it really hit me. It says, your people need a wake-up call. They need your help, and all you want is to get your message out into the world. Then you put, me too, sister, me too. What does that mean?
I feel like the people that I connect with feel that there is a message inside of them, something that they have to say. Like there's something calling them that's bigger than them. And a lot of times they don't know necessarily what it is, or if they do, they're terrified to take that step towards it. And for me, it's like, it's always been, I can't not go after what that is. I have to go after it. And I have to help other women do the same thing and go after it for them. Because that's why I think we're here. That's what's going to give us meaning and purpose in our work. It's what's going to make it work feel less like work and more like play and pleasure. And I think when you're in that space, that's when abundance and success follows.
Love it. I have a saying that says, you find your purpose when your purpose is greater than yourself. And I think
that always confused me. I was like, greater than myself. I don't get it. Like, what is great? Like, I want all the other things too. But it was tuning into what that thing was for me and what was calling me, and not looking at what other people say should be your purpose or should be your meaning. Right.
Right. And when I go back to, I'm going to go back a little bit again. When you were in your architecture career, you said you had a passion for it at one time. Then you kind of lost that passion. And I'm going to challenge you a little bit here and ask you this question. Do you think you lost your passion for it because you couldn't see the purpose in how it was helping others?
Maybe. I think we can help people in so many different ways.
Yes.
But there's only so many ways that really connect to something deep inside of us. Right. And for me, it didn't feel like architecture was that thing for me.
Right. You couldn't see your purpose in doing it and how it was helping others. Whereas if I would have known you at the time, I would have asked you this question. When you design a building or that's what you were doing, buildings, right? You're designing. When you were designing a building and you were designing it a certain way with an elevator here or a bathroom there or whatever it might be, how that was making someone else's life easier or better, by the design of that building, or even driving by that building and looking at it and saying, man, that's a beautiful building, and how that made someone's day better. That purpose was kind of lost in your mind. You didn't have that type of purpose. You just thought you were down drawing lines. Would that be fair to say, or no?
Yes. I feel like one of my first projects I worked on was Ronald Mcdonald
There you go. It had a
house
purpose
for
to
a
it.
children's hospital, where
Yeah.
the parents stay. Loved that project. That one had a lot of meaning. There was so much connection there. It was a fantastic project. I was probably really lucky to be that was my first project.
And look at the smile on your face talking about it.
It was still it still has a piece in my heart.
Right.
Then after that, it was more, I ended up doing more like banks, like branch banks, and it didn't feel quite as maybe sure, for the people working there, you can make the space better for them. And it flatlined after having that Ronald McDonald project. And it's really hard as an intern to get the projects that you want, and even all of it. And there's more to it of why I didn't like it. There's a whole piece of construction, and being a young female on a construction site, and project management. There's a lot of project management in architecture. I'm not a good project manager.
Yeah.
I don't do well at it. My husband is amazing. He's an architect. He's an amazing project manager. He's so good with the details and making sure everything is where it needs to be and when. For me, that was it's soul sucking, and I didn't enjoy it. It was not part of the process that I loved. And it's 80% of the work as an architect.
Yeah.
So that was part of it. I do still have the passion for design and making spaces feel really, really good. I love doing that. We're doing our house now, and I love oh my God, give me all the things. I want to design all of the spaces. So I still have a passion for that. It's just, it shows up differently than what I thought it would 20 years ago.
Yeah, because you just said it. You said, because it makes people feel good. I like to design spaces that make people feel good. Yeah. How cool is that? So when we get it, why don't you tell us what you're doing now? Because I think it's fascinating what you're doing now.
So what I'm doing now is a far departure from where I started. So basically I'm helping people communicate what they do, primarily service-based coaches, healers, online service providers, communicate what they do in a way that is authentic to them and really aligned with who they are. So it's using human design a lot, because that helps us understand how your energy works. So it's energy-based as well as strategy, and also how people buy, the emotions behind people buy, why people buy, and understanding all these different facets of communication to talk about what you do and sell it.
How gratifying is this part of your life or your new career in the way you do it? How gratifying is that to you?
Incredibly gratifying right now. I feel like I've always said that I don't know what I'll do in 10 years from now. I'm always shifting. But right now, this feels like the best thing. I love doing what I do and working with the clients that I get to work with.
And who are some of the clients you work with, just so people have an understanding of who you're working with, and maybe take us through what you would do with a certain client so people really understand what you're doing.
Yeah. So I primarily work with spiritual entrepreneurs. So people in the spiritual communities that, so they're life coaches or business coaches, but they're working with energy, and healers as well. So Reiki people, yoga, anyone that's offering a service online, but in a spiritual way and spiritual components to it. I love working with them. They are my jam. I get where they're at in terms of where their head is and how they think about things. but I also can understand where their ideal client is and what they need to understand in order to work with them and hire them for whatever the service is. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're helping people. You're helping people who are helping people.
Yeah,
Okay. Basically,
exactly.
what you're doing is you're helping coaches or yoga instructors or whatever find the right clients that fits who they are.
Yeah, exactly.
So that their clients are aligned with them and they're aligned with their client. So everything can be good. And when you talk about it,
so you work with people that you love. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
So you're working with people that you love to work with. You're making the difference that you want in your work, and you get to be who you naturally are and who you want to be. You're not trying to put yourself into a box to be successful, or put yourself into a box and do business the way that people have done business for eons. Like, I do believe that business is changing and the internet is allowing that. All of it is kind of shifting and changing.
Yeah. And you put down here, it says, we are going to do the inner work, the unsexy work you're very familiar with, of understanding how your energy is designed to communicate. What does that mean? Tell us what that means.
That's speaking to human design. So human design is your energetic blueprint that you're given at birth. And it's based off your birth date and time. It's how your aura, if you've heard of that term, works with everyone else around you, right?
Okay.
It's how you make decisions. And it's also how you communicate, how the energy wants to come out of you and say what you want to say. And in the spiritual community, it's shadow work. It's understanding where we've put a block up or a wall up because someone said you shouldn't say that, when actually this is exactly what you need to be saying. And so that's kind of the unsexy work. That's the work of understanding who we are meant to be, and what we're here to communicate. And human design helps pave that way, along with my own like intuition and reading people and understanding what questions need to be asked and what needs to be cleared away in order for them to feel confident in what they have to say.
It's fascinating. So you're talking about reading people, emotional intelligence. How does the average person out there get better at that? Or can you get better at that?
Oh, that's a good question.
How did you get so good at it? Let's start there and then go to the next question.
So at first is in human design, I am open emotionally, meaning I take in other people's emotions and reflect them back. So, and amplify them back, making them bigger. Right. So for me, it was first understanding how the energy was working, and that I was sensing what other people were feeling without even knowing it since I was a child. Right. And so it was understanding and awareness and being aware, like, oh, I feel this right now. Is it even mine? And a lot of times it's not. I'm like, oh, someone here is really not mad. Or like just reading people and understanding how they're feeling just by being around them. Like, I would say you are very curious right now, and you're very like,
you got it.
Content. Like there's just a very, even emotional energy from you right now.
So do you read that through facial expressions? Do you read that on how I'm present with you? Do you read it? How does that come? Or can you even explain it?
I think some of it maybe is facial expressions. But honestly, it's not always. My husband is defined in his emotions, meaning he has a consistent way of processing emotions. And he's very, on the surface, he's like the ducks. Like on the surface, he's like clean, very smooth. And underneath, he's like going like crazy. I can feel and sense all the stuff underneath. a normal person will look at me like, he's fine. There's nothing going on. I was like, no.
No.
This is all going on.
Wow.
Granted, I mean, you could say that's because we've been married for almost 16 years, but it's also, I can do that with strangers as well. It's sensing and feeling. And I think it's been experimenting with that as well, of like, I'm feeling this. Is everything okay? And they'll be like, oh my God, no. Or like, how did you know that kind of thing? And it's saying, I feel like you might be upset about something. Are you okay or whatever? And trusting what I'm feeling and being able to discern what's mine and what's not mine.
So
yeah.
Can I develop that, or is that just something that is a gift?
If you are, I'm trying to remember what I don't know if I have your human design chart. If you are open emotionally, yes, absolutely. You can, this is something that you can do as well. If you are defined, meaning that's a colored in center for you, you won't be able to tap into other people as easily because you have your own consistent energy that's strong. It's there and it's consistent, it's strong. And it's a little harder to tap into what other people are feeling. That makes sense.
Now,
your gifts then are to teach others how to process emotions in a healthy way from a defined space.
I would agree with that. That's what I try to do.
Yeah.
And people who are listening to this on Spotify or something can't see this, but have you ever seen one of these?
No.
It's an energy stick.
Cool.
Okay. And to show
Love
people who are watching this that we are full of energy.
Mm-hmm.
If I take one end of this and hold it in my hand, and I take the other end and hold it in my hand, it turns on the stick. I let go, the energy is gone. Now, if you and I were together,
that's cool.
I could hold your hand, and your hand could be touching this end, and my hand can be touching this end, and the energy goes through us, and we'll start to stick. I could get
so cool.
I could get 50 people. This is what I start my talks with, my presentations. I started with this to show everybody that we're full of energy. And I've always thought, call me crazy, it's amazing to me how we as humans, you and I can sit here and talk like we're talking. We can see each other. We can hear each other. We can process what we're saying, but we're not plugged into a wall. We don't have an opening for a gas can to go in. And how beautiful it is that our bodies and our hearts beat and we're not plugged into anything. And we can process things and we're not plugged into anything. And it's amazing to me how that happens. It's a true gift that we have, to me. And then when I was brought, Dr. Rick Perea is the one who showed me this. And it really made me think even more. What kind of energy are you bringing? Because we are, what's happening inside of us is producing energy. And that proves it out. So when you're trying to read someone's energy, what you're saying is, and what I'm hearing you say is, you have to be open to it. So when you're reading me, you have to be open to reading me. You can't just be here. But I think what you do, Rachel, is you get really present with the person you're with, and that helps you be able to read them. Am I wrong on that, or is that kind of correct?
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's very present.
So part of the way to maybe practice getting better at this, because I think leaders need this, to be honest with you, I think emotional intelligence is a huge thing that leaders need to develop.
Absolutely.
The first step in it, would you say, is when you're with somebody to try to get as present with them as you can?
I think the first step is being aware of your own emotional scale before going and talking to anyone, because you can't be present if you're in an emotionally heightened state of some kind, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Whether that's really high and excited or low and depressed. Like there's an element of being present that you need to be in kind of a neutral zone, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's this neutral zone where I'm excited. I'm happy to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I'm present enough to know that like my emotions don't matter at the moment. It's about the communication that we're having together. So, yeah.
I think that's great, because what you're saying is if I come into the conversation with you and something just happened to me with another conversation that made me angry and mad. Now, when I come into my conversation with you, it's going to be really hard for me to be present with you because my emotions and stuff are elevated, and I need to be more neutral to be present.
Yeah.
Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I will feel that anger and be like,
wow. Yeah.
And even if I would ask, be like, whoa, what's happening here? But if someone isn't as aware, they can still pick up on your energy of anger and that kind of thing. And they could feel like, oh, is it me? Like, is he mad at me? And they like, do they not want to meet with me?
Yes.
Right. And they'll take it on themselves. That's what I used to do before I understood how this energy and emotions all worked. Is I took it on it as like something was wrong with me.
Right.
When
and I think
it wasn't.
A lot of us do that probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, so many people do.
So let me ask you this, Rachel, is that more before you came more aware of it? So would that be more in your subconscious mind?
Yeah. I mean,
and now for you, it's more in your conscious mind. So you're more aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much more aware of my own emotional, I guess, scale, as well as like when it's knocked off its rocker. The other thing too with emotions is that it's harder to make decisions when you're in a heightened emotional state,
right?
Good or bad. Like you need to be in this neutral place to make a powerful decision.
This is so fascinating. So let me ask you this. I just had a meeting with someone else. They made me angry. I'm coming to have my meeting with you. I'm not in the right emotional state to be present.
Yep. Before
you could figure this out consciously, subconsciously, you're sitting there saying, what did I do? He's mad at me. He doesn't want to have this conversation.
Yep.
Now, all of a sudden, we're both not present.
Yep.
What is something that I can do coming off that meeting, now that I know when I come off a meeting that makes me angry and I come to another meeting, I can't bring that with me? What is something to get me more neutral? Do you have some ways to do that to get me more neutral? Or is that just something I got to be more aware? Okay.
Give me so many tools in the toolkit.
All right. Well, give us a couple tools to help us, because I guarantee you, if someone's listening to this, they can relate to exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So give us some tools to get us more in that neutral zone. Number one,
if you have to, number one, if it's like you immediately have to go into that room, I would first say, hey, I just needed 1 second. Give me a second. I'll be right in. And go to a space that you can be. For me, it's always being alone. It's much easier to clear when I'm alone. So it's taking deep breaths, and I do a grounding cord. So you imagine like yourself as a tree trunk, and you send a cord down to the center of the earth, and you're just like, drain it all, get all that anger, all of that, just drain it all. I'm going to deal with it later. Drain it all, drain it all. Oh, and awesome. Even making like kind of a note or something, being like, I'm going to come back to this, but right now I don't need to deal with it. And like tabling it. Right. And if you're super spiritual, super woo woo, you can give it to your guides and they'll deal with it and tell you about it later. But if you're just dipping your toes into this whole spiritual realm, it's just, I'm going to deal with it later. I'm going to drain it all right now. And I'm going to be present for this next meeting, and coming back to that neutral place of, like who I am, right? Going, who am I? I'm the type of person that is loving. I'm passionate. I know that my gifts matter. So I'm going to come back to that energy of me, and then go into the meeting, right? And try and be as present as possible with that next person, right?
knowing that my gifts matter. Wow, what an awesome statement. So what do you tell somebody who doesn't believe in their gifts, that their gifts don't matter?
You have a lot of work to do.
No, this is fascinating to me, and I think it's going to help a ton of people when they listen to this. So I think this, first of all, I think that one of the things that we can do to help people is help people figure out what their gifts are and figure out how they can use those gifts in the service of others.
Absolutely.
And I think when that's happening, you are blissful. You're happy.
Yeah.
You're in a good place. But there's a lot of people out there that don't believe in their gifts and don't believe they have gifts and don't believe they can use their gifts.
I think you have to first believe that you matter, that your life matters, right? If you can't believe that your life matters for, to the people around you, to, anyone, to yourself, then you're not going to be able to see your own gifts. And so start there. Does your life matter? It matters to the people around you. It matters to the people you love. It matters in you are a piece of the cosmic plan, right? Every single one of us.
No doubt.
And if you can see that, then you're like, okay, what am I really good at? What do I love doing? Like, start exploring what you love to do, what lights you up, not in what you're good at and you should be doing. Don't be should. There's no should. I should do this. No, it's what do I really love to do that feels like, I don't know, ease. It feels light. I tell my clients all the time, like, go towards the things that are light, that feel light, that don't feel like you're carrying a boulder on your shoulders. What is something light that you can do that will take you one step closer to what you want?
I call it peace.
Yeah.
Living in peace, because you're doing something that gives you such a satisfaction. And the first thing I'd say is everyone matters. Every life matters. That's why we're here. Every single life matters. And what you're doing is making people understand that. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is just fascinating. Okay. So the next thing you put down, by integrating the highest expression of those energies, you naturally become her. Your message flows from the depth of your soul because it's you. What does that mean?
Means that when you clear away what you think you should write, what you think you should say, the box that you're putting yourself in, and you just are yourself, the message comes out on its own. You don't have to force it or overthink it, or wonder if it's the right thing or if anyone's connecting to it. You know that they are, because it's you, and it's you are exuding you. And that's what we're here to be. We're here to be ourselves, whatever that means for you. It could be, such a broad spectrum of what you want, who do you think, who are you?
Right.
Explore it, and explore it outside of like labels. This isn't labels like I'm a woman, I'm whatever. No, it's not labels. It's who am I from a deeper, more meaningful place, from an energy standpoint.
Okay. So my next question is this: how do you give people permission to get there when most of us, of a high percentage of us, have the little man standing on our shoulder telling us everything that's wrong with us, or everything that's wrong with what we're writing, or everything that's wrong with what we're saying, or if I say this person might not like me, or this person might not connect with. Get back to that. Okay. Sorry, we had a power outage, so we're continuing after the glitches we had. And what we were getting into with Rachel was, Rachel's teaching people you're teaching people how to write from their heart, write from their soul, write what comes to their mind, and be that person. And my comment to that was, probably, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a huge percentage of us have such a hard time doing that because the little man on our shoulders telling us this isn't the right thing to say. If I say this person's not going to like me, or I'm not good enough to say it this way, or I'm not good enough to do that.
Yeah.
How do you teach people to flick that little man off your shoulder and do speak from your heart and be you?
The funnest way I like to do it is create an alter ego. So you have there's two of you inside, right? There's the piece of you that really does want to say and what you came here to say. And then there's your ego. Give your ego a name. It's the part of you that is holding you back. That's really telling you crappy things in order to keep you small, in order to keep you safe. It's there for a reason. It's there. Its job, it thinks, is to protect you, but it's not protecting you. It's keeping you small, and it's keeping you from realizing your full potential. So for me, it was the easiest to say, like, okay, this is like the part of me that it's always going to be there. There's always going to be a piece of me that says I'm not worthy, that says my ideas suck, that says I shouldn't be here doing this. I don't have enough expertise, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Right. It's not going away. It will never go away. You talk to any super successful person, they still deal with these things, imposter syndrome and all of that, right? They've just learned to, like you said, flick it off their shoulder. Mm-hmm. And I say, oh, cool. Like if an idea pops into my head of you shouldn't, no, that's not the right thing to say. I'm like, oh, why is that? And see if there's actually some validity to it. Or if it's just, no, they're not going to like it. And I'd be like, who cares if they don't like it? I want to write it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I don't care.
So I've already named that person in me. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm excited because you got me going again. Mine's the big idiot. So
the big idiot. Yeah.
But I don't always conquer it. And I think you just gave people such a gift, and you gave them a gift of, it's okay to have those feelings. We all have them. Yeah. They're not going away. Yeah. So you don't have to feel like you're different or, whatever. We all have them. And you just gave people a gift to understand that. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. We all, they're not going away. It's part of all of us. And I used to think that if I got to a certain level of success or whatever, or got something, that somehow it would magically disappear, but it doesn't. It's always there in some capacity. And it is my choice to either listen to it or to do the thing anyway. Mm-hmm. And I choose to do the thing anyway, most of the time.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I say this, choice. The greatest power we have as humans is the power of choice.
It is.
It's 100%. It's a superpower that we have, and most of us don't realize it.
We don't realize it, and we think we don't have a choice, and we always do. It may be a really hard choice. It may be something that scares the living crap out of us. It may be feel like we don't have a choice, and there's a whole lot of shoulds in there, but we always have a choice, and whether or not you take it is up to you.
Beautiful. I just love it. So you're working with me. Let's play a little role playing here. You're working with me. I'm trying to write what's coming from me, from my soul. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to write it. I'm trying to put it down. I want people to read it. I want people to get better from it and all these things. But the little guy, the big idiot's standing there telling me, if you say this, well, people might, question you on it, or people might say that's not true, or that's not really him, so I'm not sure if I should write it. How would you coach me through that?
Number one, why do you care what other people think? If number one, your ideal client is going to think a lot like you, right? They're going to, in a lot of ways, align with you. Mm-hmm. So if there's somebody that doesn't agree with what you're saying, they're not your client. So why do you care?
Wow.
You don't have to serve everyone. You won't serve everyone. Mm-hmm. And the more that we detach and say, I don't really care what you think of me, all I care is what I think of me. And I think I love what I do. I like who I am. If you don't like it,
and
go somewhere else.
and I bring value.
And I bring value. And if you don't like this version of me, it's not my problem. It's not, I mean, it's not, because there's a billion other people in the world that you can go be around. Go be around the people that you want to be around. Right.
Mm-hmm. God, it's powerful.
And I would also say, like, I want to see your human design chart and know where your openness is, where the white areas are, because that's generally where these fears and these things that hold us back are hidden. So if you have an open head, an open ajna, you're always trying to figure out the how. You're always like, well, I want to do this, but I need to understand how. Like, how is this all going to work? That, and plan it all out, when that's not our brain's job to figure out the how. It's the universe's job, to be honest, to figure out the how. We get to use our mind as a playground to possibility, and like, oh, it could happen this way. It could happen this way, but guaranteed the way that it's actually going to happen is going to be way better than anything I could come up with. It always is. Excuse me. Always is. Or if you have an open G center, and maybe you feel like you don't know what your direction is, and you're always changing your direction, and you feel a little bit like you can't be loved unless you know what you're doing and where you're going. And that's not true. You're designed to change your direction all the time. That's okay. You can change your direction 5 years from now or tomorrow. Doesn't matter. You get to wake up and decide what you're going to be going after and doing.
There's the power of choice again.
Just as you are.
That's that power of choice again. So let me ask you this. How do people get a hold of you? How do people, you keep talking about the test, and I think I took that.
Yeah.
I think I did.
The human design test.
Yeah, human design
so
test.
You need, you need to know your birth date and time. And you can go to geneticmatrix.com or myhumandesign.com. Just put in human design and you'll find some websites that you can put and get a free chart. And if you want to find me, I'm at rachaelweaver.com. And Rachel's Rachael. And I would be happy to like give you a little rundown on what your chart is. Just reach out.
Don't you have, I'm trying to remember, do you have something on your website that directs me to the chart? Because I remember taking the test.
No, I don't. Nope, I don't. It's pretty easy to find. If you just Google human design, you'll get websites that will run a chart for you, and it's free to run a chart. So, generally if you haven't looked at it before, it looks like a foreign language, but the big pieces are to look at your type, your strategy, and your authority. So you look at those 3 pieces and you can Google those and you'll get information on those as well. Like basic information of what your type is. That's your aura type, right? Your strategy is how you interact with the world, and your authority is how you make decisions. Everyone's designed a little differently to make decisions. And it's important to understand how you make decisions so that you can tap into your intuition in a more confident way.
It's really bringing a lot of things more to the conscious level. Realistically.
Yeah.
So I have to ask this question. How did you go from a passion of architecture and photography to this? I think it's so cool.
I think it was my own spiritual journey that brought me here. It was my own inner questioning and my own wanting to trust myself and get to know myself better. And that's what led me here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 3 questions. I know we're getting kind of late on time, and I know you got a family and everything else. I could go all night with you on this. My book's called The 3 Ps, Finding Your Purpose, Perspective, and Passion. So I ask all my guests on my show, what is your purpose in life first? So my 3 questions are, what's your purpose? What's your passion? What's your perspective? So the first one is, what's your purpose? What do you feel your purpose in life is?
To find truth for me.
Okay.
What is my truth? And then to share it.
To share it. Okay. And then what's your passion?
My passion is wanting everyone to accept and love and express themselves as they are and who they are.
So your purpose kind of equals your passion, because you want to find your truth and share it with others. And then your passion is to help people find theirs and be able to use that in service and help others and know that. So then what holds your purpose and passion together is your perspective. So when things happen to us, something bad happens to us, we lose our perspective really quick. Why did this happen to me? Why am I going through this? Why am I doing that?
Yeah.
And when that happens, when you get outside your perspective, it makes you get outside your purpose and your passion really fast. So what's your perspective on life that holds you in your purpose and your passion?
Life is happening for me and not to me.
Oh, beautiful.
Everything is always working out.
Awesome. And have you been in a situation where you've been outside that perspective? Something's happened to you.
Many times.
How do you get back in?
I have to feel the emotion around it, and I give it the time that it wants. It's usually a feeling of sadness or anger or whatever. And like, yep, I'm really pissed that this happened, or I'm really sad that this happened. And then from there, it's like, okay, I have to turn this into something beautiful, whatever it is.
Opportunity versus obligation. And I think the key thing you're saying there too, Rachel, is you're giving yourself permission to feel that way for a little bit. Angry, mad, frustrated, sad. You're giving yourself permission. That's, again, it's a natural thing, but then you make the choice to look at it as an opportunity and get bigger, better, stronger, whatever. It's awesome stuff. You're amazing.
Yeah. Oh,
you're amazing. I want everyone listening to this to call you and hire you and make their life better. You've gone from an architect to an architect of beautifulness in people. You bring out the best in people. And that's what kind of architect you are now. You're still an architect. You're still helping people design their life to a better life, to a more peaceful, happy existence. And I think that's beautiful what you do. You're an amazing person. We just met the other day in that conversation we had the other day. I couldn't wait to get on and have another one with you. Again, tell people how they can get a hold of you real quick. So
it's rachelweaver.com. On Instagram, it's I am Rachael Weaver. And then I have a free Facebook group called the Aligned Copy Posse. And those are the three primary places that I'm in. So,
I want people to get on. I want people to call you, get a hold of you and start working with you. And you bring out the peace in people. And I just love that. I think it's awesome. What you're doing for the world is great. And we need that. And I hope people listen to this and really take it in. I think a lot of people are going to have to listen to it like 2 or 3 times to really dive deep into what you're saying. But I want to thank you for coming on, and I want to thank people for listening. Please support the People Progressing podcast. And I'm having a lot of fun. This is kind of a hobby for me to get interesting, intriguing people on here to help people, to inspire people. And we did that this week with Rachael, and just subscribe to it, let other people know about it, and let's keep progressing as people. So Rachael, thank you so much for being on, and we will be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe, so much.